everyone, and welcome. This is the fourth in a series of 4 sessions for the Better Hospitality Conference on the topic of healthy and sustainable menu planning. And in this session, we're going to talk about the detail of how to plan a healthy and sustainable menu with some fantastic people in the hospitality sector who are doing this every day in their wonderful restaurants. And so you're going to get some great case studies, advice and tips, and hopefully a really good discussion. So why are we talking about healthy and sustainable menu planning and why it's way more than a fad? So just a bit of background to this. Consumer interest in health is the COVID-19 pandemic, shining a spotlight on that. But more actually is that people are seeing the direct link with the food they eat, their own personal health and the health of the planet, which is great. And they want to be able to make conscious buying decisions, knowing the impact on both their health and the environment. So healthy menu planning is more than about appealing to the latest consumer trends. It's about understanding that there are direct correlations with the environmental challenges. So in this discussion, we're going to talk about the link between consumer demand for healthy and sustainable menus that also consider the environmental factors. And we'll talk about how you can reduce food waste in an effective way through effective menu planning and design and creative repurposing. And we'll also talk about the real need for the food sector to proactively play a part in making sure consumers can make decisions around healthy people, healthy planet. Okay, so firstly, some introductions. So I'll just introduce myself and then I'll let you know the great people that we've got on this panel discussion. So I'm Julie Klein. I'm a nutrition trained naturopathic chef. And what does that mean? So I specialize in plant-based and sustainable diets. So not just 100% plant-based, but everything sustainable. And we focus on things like seasonal, reduction of waste, using the natural ingredients to get the most out of them. And we also specialize in free-from cooking and using alternative grains to wheat for gluten-free, but also because environmentally we need to be using more crops rather than just wheat, etc. So I'm founder of a company called Sustainable Kitchen Consultants, and I have a wider team of chefs like myself who are all nutrition trained, and we work with the food sector, but predominantly hospitality, to help them with things like healthy menu planning, recipe development. We do training in plant-based cooking, in food waste reduction, and then we help them bring it all together in terms of business processes like technology and workflows so that they're compliant with regulations and that kind of thing. I'm also the operations manager here at The Fold, which is a pioneering centre for sustainable living with a farm and a cafe and a farm shop. And my role here is really to bring the food provenance strategy to life with a real farm to fork ethos through the cafe and the various events that are going on here, which is a really exciting project. And so that's about me. I'm going to introduce you to the panel. So Sarah and Rich, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, so hi, we're from Flat Earth Pizzas. We're a pizza business in London currently. We create meat-free pizzas that are kind to the planet. So we are very conscious over our waste streams. We're zero to landfill, have minimal food waste, vegetarian, vegan, and exceptional local ingredients.
And I'm the back of house guy, Rich. It's just the two of us, which is you know, we know our business inside out because it is just the two of us. We are recruiting if anyone's listening, but and we create pizzas from scratch, so it's all from pretty much raw ingredients. So and that's the interest in the fact that we work very seasonally, and we shop locally, and we change our menus every 6 weeks, so we're not the standard 7 or 8 pizza offers on there. It's all really you know, creative, local produced food. So that's us. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Carly?
I'm Carly. I'm about to start a new restaurant, which is a new concept we've been working on for a long time, Opop, which is one plate, one price. We're in Devon, and the idea is to start with one, but to grow, who knows, throughout the UK, it's all about impact. So the more sites we have, the greater the impact we can make. I had a restaurant for 14 years in Hertfordshire. We were a founder member of the Sustainable Restaurant Association. We learned a lot about what's great about the industry and a lot about how things could be better. So our idea for Opop is really to how to make restaurants better. And for us, it's all to do with how we employ people and how sustainable we are, really, in terms of people and food and supply chain. That's us.
Great. Thank you. And Matthew.
Hi everyone. So slightly different to Carly, Sarah and Rich, I'm the co-founder of a company called My Emissions, and what we do is we help food businesses to calculate the carbon footprint and the climate impacts of their meals. And this helps them to see and understand where their emissions and their impact comes from, to reduce this and ultimately therefore be able to offer more sustainable choices. And we both offer this direct to groups and businesses, but we're also working and collaborating with Julie as part of a new mark called the Healthy People, Healthy Planet mark, which is rewarding meals which are both sustainable and good for the planet, and also those that are healthy and good for people.
Great, thank you. And all right, so what we'll do, we'll get into the discussion. So Carly, with your new restaurant, One Plate, One Price, or Opop, how are you planning to deliver on both healthy and sustainable through your menu?
That's a big question. So I think the key thing to say about sustainability is that we want to make sustainable affordable and accessible. So there's a lot of places that do a great job of sustainable. Our kind of drive is to make it so that it's affordable. So one of the way we're trying to do it is to make it affordable. The key thing is to deliver on flavour and to work with ingredients that are, I guess, indigenous, because the shorter the supply chain, the better, and have really close relationships with producers. So cut out the middlemen where we can. And I guess the healthy bit is simplicity. So Opop is a canteen style restaurant. We're going to offer food that's plentiful, flavoursome, modestly priced, good for you and good for the planet. And I guess the key thing is that our dishes will come from humble beginnings. So they'll be really simple. They'll be the food of all our grandmothers. They'll be the food that we used to sit around the table and enjoy, and that connected us, and that were often simple but yet delicious. So I think it's about simplicity. It's about minimizing the number of ingredients. It's about saying no to anything processed. And ultimately, generally, what is good for us is good for the planet. They kind of go hand in hand. It's like they can't be separated.
Great, and so obviously now there's no legal or regulatory requirement for a hospitality business to be healthy or sustainable yet. Maybe in the future there might be some key metrics to measure sustainability. But do you feel like there's a moral obligation, Carly?
Yes, a huge moral obligation, and it's just the way I see it, the climate emergency, the obesity epidemic, widening health inequalities in our society, they're not somebody else's problem. We can all take responsibility for this, and we can all have an impact. We all need to be activists. I kind of see Opop as the beginning of a food revolution. I think that we're building a movement here about how good food can reconnect us at a time when we really, really desperately need to be reconnected. So yes, I do think there is no moral obligation. There is no legal obligation right now. I don't know why, there isn't a legal obligation. And I think actually something that I'd love to campaign or lobby for is some sort of VAT reduction. The more healthy, sustainable dishes that we all have on our menus, maybe, the lower VAT we pay, because ultimately, you know, bad eating is costing us as taxpayers, you know. So I think there could be a great match to incentivize. So no, I agree, there is no legal obligation. I think the moral obligation is enormous. We need to, you know, leave the planet in a better position in that we found it. And you know, and food and the way we employ people, and you know, has so much impact. So
and one of my biggest bugbears is, you know, because we do need to, you know, educate the younger generations, and yet you think about the typical kids menu on a restaurant, it's just like it's not healthy, right? You know, fish fingers and all sorts, and you know, and we, when I set up my company, that was one of the things I really wanted to address with people, is because, you know, it's a bit of an and actually, if you plan better, it can be a similar menu to what they're eating, but just done a bit smarter, so that, you know, it's not the, well, let's just give the kids fish fingers kind of thing. So yeah, so I agree. I think there's a really exciting role that hospitality can play in educating people and educating the younger generation, but equally, yeah, you know, so yes, right now that could give someone a competitive edge, but I think very soon it's going to become an obligation, and so it should, so that, you know, we can start addressing some of the issues with, you know, environmental challenges, etc. So in your experience, Carly, are there any restaurant groups who are doing this well?
There's a lot of restaurants that are doing sustainability well. I mean, the Sustainable Restaurant Association has a number of 3 stars, you know, restaurants that have achieved their 3 stars, which means they're achieving on, you know, society and and environment and customers. I think what we're not seeing is 2 things, well, 3 things. So we're not seeing enough affordable, sustainable food. We're not seeing healthy food high enough on the agenda of sustainable restaurants, and even papers that have been written on Sustainable Restaurant Association and other measures of how sustainable restaurants, how sustainable restaurants are, note that healthy is just not high up on the agenda. It's quite difficult because we like indulging when we go out, and unfortunately a lot of indulgence is associated with fattening foods. So that's kind of 2 points. The third thing is, although there are a lot of restaurants that are doing this well, mostly they're single sites, and you know, they can only make so much of an impact on one site. Now they might be doing a brilliant, you know, they might be making a brilliant impact where they are. What I want to do differently is to create a model that can be impactful, you know, in a number of different areas, and often areas where you might not see these sorts of impactful restaurants. So maybe areas where the income is lower or the obesity rate is higher, or probably areas where actually this sort of restaurant can actually have a big difference. So yes, I think people are doing it. Yeah, I think,
and this I couldn't agree more. And part of the reason, you know, Matthew and I and you know, the team, Matthew's team at My Missions got together, was because too often the sustainability metrics absolutely forget about human health. So that's why we created the Healthy People, Healthy Planet, which does assess both the health and the environmental impact. And one thing we were talking about on a session we had yesterday was, you know, with a lot of people still working from home, you know, and the expectation is that's going to happen for quite some time, in that, you know, people might split their time between working from home a few days a week and only going into the office a couple of days a week. And so therefore, we were saying, surely it creates an opportunity for people, like local pubs and restaurants and cafes, for people to go on their lunch break or even breakfast, to have breakfast out, because, you know, they're working from home, but they might still want to get out, but they don't want to have fish and chips for lunch. You know, they want to have a healthy lunch. So we were saying, surely it's an opportunity that they really excel there, because the evening trade might not be the same because people aren't going to the office. And I think that's really exciting, and therefore, you know, people don't want a big heavy breakfast or an indulgent breakfast or lunch necessarily during the week, right? So I'm hoping that there'll be a bit of a shift.
I think there could be an enormous shift. I mean, my favorite breakfast is porridge. you know, so that what we're going to be offering 6 days a week is porridge, toast and a hot drink for under £5, because the idea is about connecting people. And, you know, I see our restaurants as hubs of connectivity and opportunities for networking. Sounds a bit formal and a bit contrived, but for meeting people when, like you say, we're all sitting in our rooms on our own, feeling a bit sad and lonely. So I think start the day positively with connecting with other people. And and I agree. I think there might be more daytime eating. And one of the things we're not going to be doing, which may not work, you know, we haven't tried it yet. This is still all theoretical, but we're not going to be open evenings. And the kind of two major reasons: one is to make ourselves more attractive as an employer, because, you know, who doesn't like to have evenings off? But the other is so that we can have our restaurants as available for workshops and for taste testing and for make-alongs and for demonstrations and for talks and for interacting, because these restaurants are cultivating these amazing spaces that could be used to connect our communities and educate, which is, look, it's not going to do my brand any harm either. Of course, it's not all about, you know, giving. It's also beneficial. But yeah, the idea is that we can use that space to kind of share the message that we're keen to share.
Well, that's really great, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. Is this, so the cafe here, we don't open on a Monday, and that's very much for you know, for me to help, you know, do the chef training that we offer here on a Monday. So, you know, it's utilizing that real estate, which again is a sustainability point. You know, we need to utilize our spaces and time and resources effectively. So yeah, no, thank you. Just one more question. So how are you going to communicate the healthy and sustainable messaging to your customers of your meals?
I guess for us, it's about the restaurants being the coalface of the revolution, and then trying to get, and now with Zoom and us all being used to it, is trying to get the message across to people in the home. So we're going to have illustrated recipe cards available for our meals, really simple ideas. We're going to encourage children to come up to the counter and ask our chefs for tasters, because we want to, you know, a lot of children eating fish fingers only is fear of not liking something. So we want to, you know, actually make the people that work with us really approachable, particularly to children. We just want to get out in the communities and work with particularly sports and health focused organizations to say, look, this is a space where, you know, you can talk about what you want to talk about, but also, you know, we're reinforcing the same message as you. Let's work together. So yeah, we want to be in people's homes as much as we want to be in restaurants. You know, this is a big message that we need to share throughout our sector. You know, this isn't just about us doing it.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Carly. So Sarah and Rich, okay, so you guys have always been really great at managing food waste. Can you give us some ideas and examples of what you've done with veg that's otherwise destined for the bin? Okay,
cool. Shall I start with
that
one also? As we've mentioned before, we do really like to work with the seasons, and so we have a very localized sort of supply chain of food, and because we are meat free, the majority of our menu, apart from our cheese or our non-dairy cheese, is vegetables. So they're very, very seasonal, and from that, I think, you know, we came in this sort of learning as we go, and the first thing that we learned about, or I learned about, was about fermenting and pickling. So the preservation of the veg that we use is really sort of crucial to the base of a lot of our ingredients. So if, as an example, we use maybe some non-UK grown produce such as lemons, and I preserve lemons, and so we will buy them once maybe every 3 months, and we will preserve them in a Malden sea salt and keep them compressed, and then we use lemon into, you know, that's the whole lemon, the rind, you know, everything pressed into a kilner jar with salt, and then we would use that as a flavour into our ingredients. Another thing that I use, which we've really developed now, is our vegetable stock. So much of our food waste, that's garlic skins, that's spring onion skins, onion skins, you know, lots of the allium, but other vegetables as well go into that, into a stock pot. And then we
in my fridge just here, I've been here a week, and the team now know not to throw anything out. They've got the Julie pot. It's for my stock. They think I'm mad.
No, I tell you, and the mushrooms as well. So we use mushrooms on our most popular pizza is our creamy garlic mushroom pizza. So whether it's the skins or the stalks and the mushrooms, and we keep those, and then I make a big 10 litres of stock, and then drain that off, and that's the stalks from the parsley or from the herbs as well, and then we reduce that down into a demi-glace, and I reduce 10 litres of stock into under half a litre, and it becomes this thick demi-glace that we add to our tomato passata, and then we add to our bechamel as well, so that gives you an umami sort of rich flavour to that. And the other, you know, the simple things, keep the skins on. You know, I made 11 kilos of kimchi 2 days ago, and from the 11 kilos of veg, we actually had 100 grams of food waste, and actually I chucked that in the veg stock anyway. So we actually had 11 kilos of veg. We didn't waste anything. So the carrots have the skins on, and you know the cabbage tops or the cabbage bottoms. So we use a Chinese leaf. So the cabbage bottoms are the plugs for the kimchi brine itself, so that keeps through. Everything is in there. And then, you know, on our pizzas at the moment, we've got a butternut squash pizza, a harissa and miso squash, skin on. I mean, you know, everything is skin on, and that's you know, that's a standard basic step. So
and where the nutrients are,
and
well, that's it, and it's all edible, so
yeah.
not, you know. Yeah.
So each ingredient we kind of look at, and then look at whether we can use it raw, whether we can pickle it, whether we can preserve it, whether we can ferment it. And, you know, I could go on all day, but one other piece about this, which I find really nice and really interesting, is that I used to work at a farm in Dagenham and help out there, work there, but help them. And they are an organic farm, and they're part of the Grow Community Scheme of veg boxes, but they had 100 kilos of green tomatoes left at the end of the season, often little tiny ones, and I said freeze them down and save them for me. So I've been using these tomatoes, and I put them in a 3% garlic and thyme brine, and then ferment them, and they will last for 3 months, you know, up to 3 months in brine. And basically they're infused with garlic, infused with thyme, and we add those, or some of those, to our tomato passata as well. So it has this sort of acidic bite to the passata, but with tomatoes otherwise destined for the food compost. And
Yeah.
you know, that whole sort of following techniques of, you know, pre-20th century of preservation, and that is preservation's the be all and end all for me, you know, saving food. And Sarah, to add anything to that?
Well, only that we're not completely zero waste, so there is inevitably going to be some things that we do throw away. So it's just about making sure that in our kitchens we've got the correct waste streams. So we work with First Mile, so they pick up our food waste regularly enough that we have enough to give them, but not regularly enough that it means sending out more vehicles. And then in addition to that, our pizzas are the perfect size, we believe, for one person, so it's not like really gluttonous where you get lots of people sending stuff back on the plate, which I think is quite important as well. So we've tried to think about it throughout the whole process. Yeah,
and as another example, so we will get radishes in at the moment, which we use for the kimchi. We use the radish leaf, and we have a salsa verde, so we can put that leaf into the salsa verde. You know, we get beetroot in, we can use the leaf from that. So it's like looking at something and seeing how we can use that. And you know, the salsa verde we use for 2 dishes, which is great. And you know, we have a lot of zing to it as well, but it's using the leaf that other people may not use, and you know, lots of stuff.
And question, Rich, do you use your freezer a lot?
I think we don't have a big freezer, to be honest, but we do use it, and I think the freezer has become a really good asset to us, because you know,
I mean that in a good way. And I'm not saying that you freeze all your pizzas. I'm sure they're lovely and fresh. I mean, as in, you know, like, so that if something comes in and there's an opportunity that you want to use, like the leaf from some beetroot, but you don't have the time at that time to do it. Do you utilize the freezer and then you get back to that and add that to your stock or your pesto or whatever it is you're going to do?
And we've got some wild garlic at the moment, which we're lucky to know somewhere where we get it from in Norfolk. And I've blitzed that down with some rapeseed oil, and that's gone in the freezer. So it keeps it there and it keeps it going.
Yeah, a lot of people don't use their freezer enough at home, I think.
I agree. Yeah. Cool. Okay. And so, have you noticed your customers? I guess requests or tastes have changed over the time, your regular customers with your creations?
Can I start that, or do you want to start? Okay. I think for us, I mean, we came into this business where we weren't saying, we've got to redefine pizza and we're going to turn the world on its head. But what we wanted to do was use a whole grain in our pizza from the UK. So, 99% of pizzas use the endosperm only, the carb of the pizza, the big, the whole piece in the middle, and we use the bran, and we use the germ as well. So it's a UK grain that is formed, is 100% UK grain. That is the base of our pizza. So what we find is we get so many people ask us, is that einkorn, is that this, is that what is it that makes the base of your pizza? And it's just a good UK grain. So the other parts of that Sarah will talk about is the fact that you don't get this sort of dough coma after eating our pizza, and we get a lot of people back and say, wow, it's so digestible.
But one of the main things I think from my perspective is that during this last year, we've always had flat earth pizzas on Deliveroo, and then this last year we've added flat earth vegan pizzas. So it's an entirely vegan profile for us, and that is actually outperforming the original one by like 4 times. Yeah. So, but interestingly, when people come in now to eat with us, we're getting fewer vegans. So it's I guess it's kind of horses for courses. Maybe on Deliveroo there aren't enough vegan pizza people, I don't know, but we've certainly seen that influx.
I think the biggest piece is the fact that we are meat free, and we have people come in, and because we use what's in season, and we add flavor to the ingredients, but people are coming up to me at the counter or up to Sarah and saying, wow, I'm a meat eater, but I've had your pizza and it's great. So it's quite a distinct taste to what we do. So
changing perceptions of vegetarian pizzas.
And high returning customers because of that. So it's a proud moment when someone comes up to you and said, I really like what you're cooking. I love that.
That's really great. And it's really great also that that's first-hand case study example of people, consumers coming in and asking, is this einkorn? So they're aware of the different grains, and they're wanting to find out more. And this is what I was saying at the start of this call. The consumer is wanting to know this information, and especially now, with COVID, we have all connected with nature more, because that was the only way we were able to. We weren't able to go into people's homes, so the connection places were in nature or in our garden, and so people have been growing more and wanting to learn more about their health. So I think it's a really exciting time as we emerge out of this, because people have reconnected with their health and nature, and so therefore they'll be looking for that when they come out into hospitality, hopefully. And that's why it's so important for hospitality to, one, understand that, and two, be able to react to that quickly, but also understand that it's an exciting opportunity to be creative, actually. And it shouldn't be seen as a daunting thing, I think, or just another thing that they need to do. I think we should encourage it, because we have to, because we've got planetary issues, and environmental issues.
I think starting to get an understanding of the growing seasons in the UK is a real great starting point. And we're in the middle of April, and now get your tomato seeds in. get your courgettes in, and start growing something. Courgettes and tomatoes for me are really, really productive vegetables, and they're easy to grow. A bit of nurturing, look after them. You can grow both in a pot, and cherry tomatoes, get them in now, and they'll be ready for July, August, etc. And really, really it's a real proud moment when you're at work and you're thinking about your veg at home and what you're growing, and when you see those seeds come up, I think it's such an exciting thing. And then people start to see what we grow and get involved in that, and we do a lot of foraging, and it's seeing stuff grow throughout the seasons and so localized, and it's just such a lovely thing that we do, and we like people to we like to talk about it as well.
And so what are your plans for 2021 then?
Over to Sarah.
Well, we are looking for a site in Brighton, so I mean that's first and foremost, but with that, I mean we're writing our business plan. We've got lots of plans in terms of we want to investigate becoming a B Corp. We want to recruit a team of like real crusaders for us, people who really believe in what they're doing, and want to spread the word, people who are really proud to work with us. We want to develop our, I could say this for ages, but we've just launched our DIY kimchi kit, which is basically we work with our supplier, Pale Green Dot, our veg supplier. So we provide the kilner jar, the spices, the salt, the recipe, and then Pale Green Dot provide all the veg. So it gets delivered within the M25, and everyone can make their own kimchi at home, something that maybe is a little bit, people feel it's a bit complicated. So we've kind of demystified all of that. So we would like to get more into the retail space as well. And then excitingly, Rich has just been accepted onto the Do School fellowship for sustainable businesses and social enterprises.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a focus of ours as well. So
that's a year-long program on the future of food, and it's a really great achievement for us that we are involved with like-minded people. It's a year-long mentorship program that's being run online at the moment, and it's the focus is the future of food, and for us to be chosen as a pizza offer, and someone that a team of two that wants to sort of get really heavily involved in providing pizza that has sustainability behind it is close to the planet and with what we do, and to provide something that adds positive impact into that fast food or fast casual food, whatever you want to call it, market that is massive. And we are doing something a bit different, and I think it's a really exciting time for us. Well done.
Yeah, and I'll send you an email because there's a guy in Italy who I've just remembered now, who's doing something similar with pizza chains in there. I'll send him your details. And Carly, actually, I didn't ask you before I get to you, Matt. So what is your timeline with Opop? When are you looking to open?
We'll open, well, if all goes to plan, we'll open in July. And then we'll look to roll out, it's our test site, so we'll be looking to roll out future sites and then build a training academy that sits alongside it all within the first 6 months to a year. Look out for the name, hopefully.
Yes, good. Okay, and so we're going to slightly shift gear a little bit to talk about my emissions. So Matt, just if you want to give us an idea of, so we've talked about sustainable meal. Do you want to just give us an idea, what does a sustainable meal look like?
Starting with a simple question, Julie, I guess there's one of the things about sustainability is it's very complex, or at least it has lots of different meanings. We can talk about sustainability in the sense of its carbon footprint and its emissions, but also in many ways sustainable for like people and sustainable financially and making it affordable for restaurants. There's so many different like aspects to it. I think a lot of the time what a sustainable meal will usually be one where, as a restaurant, you've thought about all of these things and you're actively thinking, as we've seen all of Carly, Sarah and Rich, all of them thinking about how to offer meals which are nutritious, which are good for the planet, environmentally sustainable, which can ensure also that, you know, you can pay all of your workers and your employees properly and fairly. So there's lots of things to consider, but I think once you do all of that, you end up with like a really like nice offering, which hopefully then you're able to communicate to your customers is a really good thing to be buying, and you'll have people wanting to kind of work with you and get behind your brands.
And so, do you want to explain a little bit more about with My Emissions, what things you look at in terms of how to measure or quantify how sustainable a meal is?
Yeah, so I guess our specialism is on that environmental sustainable side, and especially at the moment we are focusing on the carbon footprint side of food. And one of the core reasons for that is that currently 25% of all global greenhouse gas emissions does come from food. So it's a really big chunk of emissions that we need to kind of look at and address if we're going to meet all of the climate targets that are being set. And what we learned, I mean, this has been as much a learning curve for myself and us as a business over the last 12 months or so. It's amazing how much of the emissions come from the farming and processing stage for most foods. And it actually means that in most cases, the ingredients that you offer and the ingredients that you choose and the food that you eat is the most important thing and the biggest factor in terms of what your carbon footprint is. And there are similar trends as well in terms of water use and land use change as well, generally with sustainability. And that was a really interesting insight for us. It showed us that, I think one of the stats that's been used is that we could straight away reduce global emissions by 25% from food, which is about 6% of all global greenhouse gas emissions, just from choosing low carbon meals, low carbon food options. And so there's a real opportunity of, you know, promoting vegetarian or plant-based meals potentially, and you don't even need to brand them in that way, but swapping out some ingredients to more sustainable ones. We've heard a lot about seasonality, and seasonal ingredients will always have a much lower carbon footprint and will be better for the planet because you're not artificially creating an environment to grow food. You're doing everything naturally, and therefore
or shipping it in from another part of the world where it is in season.
Well,
so, yeah.
Actually, even shipping in foods that are grown in season but in other parts of the world will be better than, for example, choosing foods that are grown out of season in the UK. So for definite, locally grown seasonal vegetables is like number one. That's the best. Then it's seasonal foods grown wherever. So I think a good example of this, which is thrown around a lot, is tomatoes, and how tomatoes grown in season in the UK, really low carbon footprint, but grown out of season and generally having to be grown in greenhouses will mean it has a much, much higher impact, and in some cases up to 10 times higher impact than tomatoes grown in season, but in places like Spain or Southern Europe and then imported. And I guess that's something that we're looking at with My Emissions is having a look at something across its whole life cycle, because you can make a decision based on something like just food miles or just packaging, but actually you need to look at the food in the round and the whole system and process in order to make a real judgment of what is better or worse for the environment.
And what I really like about what you guys have done at My Emissions is that, you know, there's lots of different carbon calculators out there, right? You know, and there's the Carbon Trust thing, and there's the various things. I think there's stuff on the Vegan Society website, for example. There's lots of things globally. There's a huge list I've seen somewhere that I think WWF had. But what I thought was great was your business was largely born from a frustration yourself as a consumer, wanting to be able to make more informed choices. Like, you know, so let's say you did have a burger one day, but then you wanted to kind of offset the fact that you had a beef burger one day by, you know, your next few meals that you ate out, but being able to do that in an informed way, and there wasn't the information there for you to be able to do that. So what I thought was great is whilst you understand that there's more to something being sustainable than the carbon emissions, that we needed to start somewhere, right? And do you want to just expand on that a little bit?
Definitely. I mean, I think I alluded to it. This has been for us, it started as a lockdown and pandemic problem, like project for us. And it very much started from a frustration, but then we realized that there's so much data that's actually out there, and there's so much that is available, that something just needed to be done with it. And that's what we've tried to do. And I guess at every step, we're not in the business of trying to tell people what they need to do or what they should do. We just want to give people the information and the tools to make more informed choices. And again, we don't want to throw it down people's throats. We just want it to be there and just start a conversation. And so a lot of what we thought about is that communication piece, how to show and present this information. We use a traffic light system, so foods are ranked as a low, medium and high. We have a fair daily food emissions value, which allows us to present meals or present food products as a percentage of your fair daily amount. And both of those things really take a lot of inspiration from how nutritional information is used. And then also we've got the Healthy People, Healthy Planet mark, which is obviously something we're working on together. That's as in the Sustainable Kitchen Consultants and Julie and us at My Missions, which is now trying to incorporate all of those factors into one score and one piece, to really be able to make it easy for consumers to identify what meals and what foods are good for on all of these scales. Taking into account that some meals might be slightly lower on the sustainability level, but they'll be much higher on the health scale, and rewarding them in the same way as vice versa. Some meals which are really, really sustainable, and just looking at how we can put all of these things together to create like a meaningful mark for people to really understand.
Yep. And if anyone wants to find out a bit more about our Healthy People, Healthy Planet mark, please get in touch. There is a website that you can go to if you Google it, and you can find out about how you can display it on your menu, and how we do the assessment of what's healthy and what's sustainable. But I guess another question, are there particular foods or types of foods that make meals more or less sustainable? And you touched on that slightly, talking about the plant-based and also seasonal. But if you think to things like the NOR 50 foods, if people are aware of that, and it largely talks about 50 foods that are quite sustainable that we don't use enough of. And they are things like, they're things like seaweed actually, which are fantastic for creating flavor in plant-based cooking, because it's got a lovely umami flavor. But there are other things like pulses and grains and non-wheat grains, etc. And do they score well on the sustainability side in terms of emissions?
Generally, yes. I mean, there's a lot of nuance in there, but generally animal products will have a higher carbon footprint, and especially red meat will have a higher carbon footprint than others. And actually, if we think about sustainability in a more general sense, having a food system which isn't just offering like a core group of foods, but offering like a diverse set of foods is always going to be the best solution for our food system as a whole. And therefore experimenting and exploring what all of these other grains and pulses and even that less often used fruits and vegetables is a really good opportunity to both find sustainable and really environmentally friendly foods, but also be able to offer something different on menus. And I definitely encourage everyone to go and look and see what's out there and available, and be a bit creative, I guess.
It's a great opportunity for chefs to really re-engage and get creative with this stuff as well, because so I had a session yesterday as part of this conference with Vince Kelly from Westminster Kingsway Chef College, and he demonstrated a healthy dish that he did, and I was talking about fermentation, and we were just saying that this kind of cooking and thinking is not yet well integrated into the chef colleges, and he's been making real inroads in what he's done at Westminster Kingsway. And with respect, I'm not slagging your colleges, but it's just that it's not there yet. And so therefore, you know, people like us are trying to fill that gap with what we're doing with our respective initiatives, like, you know, you guys doing your kimchi making, for example, and Carly wanting to start this training initiative, and that's great, and you know, this is what we're all passionate about, but we do need to have more of an education of the hospitality industry, and that's why I'm really thankful to be able to be doing these sessions as part of this conference. It's been great, and to get your input on it, but absolutely we need to wave this flag harder, don't we? So but it's an exciting time. I'm just conscious of time. We've got 14 minutes. Sorry, Felicia. I know we're supposed to have 15 minutes for people to ask questions. So if anyone's got any questions, if you want to pose them to the panel, but equally the panel can ask each other questions if you want.
I guess I'd be interested to know, almost just following on from what I was talking, like Rich and Sarah, where has your inspiration come for all of the different ingredients that you obviously find and experiment with? How does that all come about?
Well, we kind of follow the ethos of restaurant ingredients on pizza bases. So we try and look for something that's a little bit more out of the ordinary. We don't want to be the ubiquitous pizza offer that, you know, we do giardiniera or whatever it's called. But really it all comes out of Rich's head. I mean, I can't take too much credit for this.
I think Carly will agree with me on this, and it comes from my upbringing and my parents and my family, and just my mum was an exceptional cook, and you know, we all ate around the table, and my mum would cook a home cooked meal every day, and you know, it was learning, just subconsciously learning about food. And my mum was you know, you come home from school and my mum had made a cake, and I'm like, oh my god, you've got another cake. And it was like that piece. And you know, I've worked in food for a long time, and we both have, but to do something, and you know, pizza, you know, the origins of pizza, or putting something on bread, is, you know, goes around the world, and we just wanted to put something on good dough that was locally grown. And I think the dough is a showcase for locally grown ingredients. And yeah, okay, we make a lot of stuff up, and we put recipes together from what's seasonal, but it's just really interesting. And you know, Carly, help me out here. I mean, you know, you cook, you know, and such a great idea for Opop, and it's just being creative and using stuff from your larder, your storeroom, or whatever's about, and getting people involved. And it's beautiful that you want to do something with education and help people, and you know, just maybe remove that mysticism or whatever it may be of getting into the kitchen, isn't it?
For me, I guess it's about looking at the diverse landscape that is Great Britain, and all the different cultures and all the different cooking that goes on in people's homes, but all the cooking that doesn't go on in people's homes. So we need to share the knowledge and bring these meals that your mum possibly created. My mum didn't, but my grandma did. So, you know, bring those meals that connect people, that get people around the table, that are affordable, that aren't, you know, that aren't that are accessible to people. Bring those dishes to the forefront of people's minds, and re-educate people and remind them that eating well isn't a privilege, it's a right, and that there are ways of doing it on a low budget. We just need to get some of that energy back into the cooking at home, and we need to borrow some ideas from the cultures that do it the best. British people
totally.
away a little bit.
There's some fantastic stuff. You know, you and I have had separate conversations about the kind of Middle Eastern vibe, and yeah, one of the owners here is from India, and so I'm, you know, really wanting to bring in some Indian influence to what we do here. And but it's so important what you're saying, Carly, about price, because yeah, I think for too long, you know, even vegan food and healthier food has kind of been, well, it's been more expensive, and That was partly, I think, because of the way people were approaching it, because they were using higher end ingredients, higher price end ingredients. But thankfully that's changing. But equally, we need to make it more affordable for everyone and accessible. And that's what sustainability is about. It's about equality, really, isn't it?
Well, to me, ultimately, what sustainable means for me as a business is that I'm still going to be here, me or my organization, doing the good job that I want it to do ad infinitum. That's what sustainability means to me. And I think the best way to have a sustainable business is to run it sustainably. It seems kind of cliched, but actually, I think that's the best chance you have for longevity.
Yeah.
And there's a word, we don't like to use the word lazy, and we want that out of our vocabulary. And I think you've got to work that bit harder, and maybe experiment a bit more, learn that bit more, and and if people were lazy is a funny word, but what we strive to learn more, work harder, and make the right decisions. And we don't use cling film, we use a lot of Tupperware, and and we, as I said, our food waste is managed well. So, we have to make those decisions and make sure the people we work with and our suppliers and everything else aren't lazy people as well, and are doing things for the right reason. And, that's really important to us.
Yeah,
I think food waste is, sorry if I could go in, food waste is a really interesting and really easy one, because again, if we go to environmental sustainability, one of the stats we found is that 6% of all global greenhouse gas emissions, that's in total, can be accounted to food waste. And that's about double the impact of flying and the whole international aviation industry. And that comes from households, but also restaurants, hospitality, and everyone really. And also, if we can all reduce our food waste, not only will that have environmental benefits, it means purchasing and buying less food. It's a way of saving money and making your whole system and operations more efficient. And it might well require a bit of extra work and like creating new processes or ways of cooking.
It's not insurmountable. It's actually it's easier than you think, but it does need to happen at the menu planning phase. And you do need to put in place some processes. But like I said here, I've been here a week and a half, and I've got my own little fridge that everyone knows not to throw things out, and they're putting things aside when they're picking cress off the stalks. They're putting the stalks aside in my pot. So it's not hard to bring that culture, and if you bring the front of house team on board as well, to know that that's the ethos. To be honest, I think you'll find that people will welcome it. So I think it's just around communicating across your site that that's your vision, and no one's perfect. No one's ever going to get it 100% perfect, but we have to try and it's these small steps that can be done.
And if I was to share one tip, Julie, it's the most important person in the kitchen is the KP. I mean, they know what comes back on every plate, and
true.
Ask the guy or the person that's washing up, what is it that's coming back? And then you'll see the food wastage, and you'll see how much is coming back, and how much, everything. And it's all the overportioning, and it's all the stuff we produce too much, and we haven't managed our food stocks well enough, and all those sort of things. We've over-ordered, and it's real, as I said, get away from lazy ordering and using the systems and what is available to you now. And technology now is brilliant at managing food ordering, and that's such a big part.
Yeah. That's a really good point. And we did have a session yesterday about technology and healthy menu planning. That's a really good point. And you'll save money. So, and that's part of sustainability, as Callie was saying.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Everyone's silent, listening.
I have a question.
People. Yes. Hi, Felicia.
I was wondering, because I'm working at the moment a little bit in traditional Chinese medicine, and they have these nutritional plans and so forth. And the actual essence of it is that you eat just little portions. You don't overdo it. You don't have waste afterwards, but you eat a vast sum of things. So, you don't need to eat meat, but you eat a certain number of vegetables, and the sum will then be of high nutritional value and good for your body. And I just educating myself about it. I just figured that a lot of people don't think in these terms anymore, to combine things to actually get the nutritional value out of it. And we eat just meat because we know there is a lot in it, which we immediately get. But actually, if we combine things, that's even better for the body. And I wonder how that is going if you have customers who come in. It seems so complicated, getting everything together, all of the different, very sometimes a bit unknown ingredients. And so how it's not so easy to access sometimes, and how this is working with customers. How do you explain that? How is that, is that presented, or do you look for things that they can actually locally get easily?
So for me, the way we would approach that is eat the rainbow. I love that idea. So for us, we're going to have 8 dishes a day. It's going to be simple. People can choose to have a bit of everything or just one dish. But the idea is that they all complement each other, and they balance, and that the eat well plate with all the different food groups are on there. But it's about balance. Yeah, and yeah, I do like eat the rainbow. It's simple. Kids get it. I get it.
Can I also say, so the food problem, they want to be able to source 75% of the ingredients within 20 miles, 15% within the rest of the UK, and then 5% in Europe and 5% rest of the world. And it's quite ambitious. I'm excited about trying to hit that. Obviously, we've got a farm here, so that does help a little bit. However, it's a new farm manager, and so it's going to take a bit for that. But then, Worcestershire, it's right around lovely farms. But there is a fantastic company, and I'm not meaning to do a plug, but they're called Hodmedods, and there's a lot of farms in the UK here now who grow things like quinoa, chickpeas, lots of wonderful beans, pearl barley, and lots of other older crops like Carlin peas and stuff, which are absolutely delicious, and they're really rich, really nutrient dense, rich in protein. So I guess to partly answer your question, Felicia, we don't need to get exotic ingredients. Actually, there's a lot grown here in the UK that we just don't use enough of. Like, so fava beans, for example, broad beans. I love making, fantastic alternative to guacamole, because avocados are not grown here, and there's issues with how avocados are grown because of the big fad that everyone was eating them. But you can do great stuff with locally grown stuff. We have to get beyond the traditional way of making things. Like, so you can make a pesto. You don't have to use pine nuts and cheese and just basil and whatever. Use leek leaves, or use whatever whatever.
Wild garlic now. Yeah,
exactly. You can use anything kind of green. You can make a salsa verde using these kind of things. So I think it's to answer part of your question, I don't think we need to educate people to eat our locally grown stuff more, and not rely on more exotic ingredients, I think, anyway. And I think it's easier than we think. You can use pearl barley, for example, in a risotto instead of rice. It's really lovely.
Yeah.
I also think, Julie, I use Instagram as well quite a lot for researching, and you get, you sort of go down a rabbit hole with that. But, there's so many people doing interesting things with food on Instagram, and suppliers, producers and farms. And, as I said, we work with Pearl Green Dot, but there's Flourish as well, which is an amazing farm. They use horses and cart to farm their produce. And, then you start seeing who's following them and who's talking to them. And then you find the grain producers, and then you get hold of Hodmedods and everything else. So it's so interesting going down that route and meeting like-minded people, and the whole sort of networking ethos on social media can be really, really positive if you use it in that way, which is what we try to do as well.
Agreed. Yeah. But okay, so we're about to run out of time, but thank you so much. It was such great conversation. I could talk like this for days and days, but another time. So yeah, anyone who's been listening, hope you found it helpful. There'll be a recording of this, so if you want to watch it back or share with other people, then please do. And if you want to get in touch with anyone here, then please do as well. Okay, thanks a lot, guys.